Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral service for Jerome Jerry Lee Dreyfuss. For those of you who have a cell phone, please turn it off at this time. We welcome those of you who are joining us via live stream. Rabbi Gidon Isaacs will be officiating, and at this time we are privileged and honored to have the United States Navy to present the Military Honor Guard for Mr. Dreyfuss's service to our country.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for us to be here today to perform military honors. At this time, I ask that you rise, place your right hand over your heart as we play taps. If you have served or currently serving, we invite you to perform a final salute with us. Maybe see it. accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service.
On behalf of the family and everyone here, we thank the gentleman from the United States Navy doing a beautiful ceremony. This time the rabbi is going to approach the family to perform the ancient ceremony of Kriya, tearing of the ribbon, then begin the sacred ceremony.
Mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex and too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. The gifts of spirit our loved one gave us cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of their light and their warmth will always be with us, bringing us comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. You who heal the brokenhearted and bind up their wounds, grant comfort and consolation to these mourners as they face their grief. Fill their lives with the acts of loving kindness and truth, which serve as the genuine memorial to our dear Jerry. The deep bond of love will remain unbroken. We say, Amen. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and to old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Reading, I think, fitting for the sentiment that Jerry would have wanted. This is truly an opportunity to celebrate the life of Jerome Lee Dreyfuss, who made very clear to his children that when it came time to have any kind of service, I guess in his words, he would have said, don't. Just have people come, say thank you. Now, sei gesund, go eat. And that will come. And recognizing that that is a nice wish on his behalf, but So many here do mourn him and miss him. And so we don't want maudlin affair. We want to celebrate who he was. And we also need to give space for the sadness and loss that is in the hearts of those who knew him. So we're here also to comfort the mourners, his daughter, Robin Dreyfuss, son, David, and wife, Jenny Dreyfuss, his grandsons, Andrew and his wife, Danielle, Benjamin and his girlfriend, Gina, Samuel, and of course, his great-grandson, Micah, and his companion for close to 3 decades, Beverly Goldberg. In times of loss, we look to the words of others, particularly to our own tradition, the words of the Psalms that have so beautifully captured what it is to be human, what we need to inspire us and to bring us comfort during times of need. We turn to Psalm 23, which both reminds us that we are never alone, that there is always a presence, a divine presence, whether we imagine that as God or the divinity within each and every one of us, the sacred sparks, and the comfort that ultimately we start at home and where we end up is also home, in the divine home, the house of God, as we find our final rest. I'll chant Psalm 23, followed by a reading of English translation. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, binot eshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yinaleni. Nafshi shovev, nafshi shovev, Yoncheni b'magle tzedek leman shemu. Gam ki elech begitz al mavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni taroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorirai. Dishanta v'shemen roshi kosiri vaya. Ach tov v'chesed yidefuni kol yimei chayai. Veshavti beveit Adonai. Veshavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. A Psalm of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul. God leads me in the paths of righteousness for God's name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Our rabbis taught that there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, the crown of royalty. But they emphasized that the crown of a good name excels them all. The book of Ecclesiastes says, Tov Shem Mishemen Tov, a good name is to be treasured above precious oil. Wealth, health, even life passes away, but a good name lasts forever. And it is this view that the Talmud teaches. Monuments need not be erected for the righteous. Their deeds are their memorials. They will be remembered and revered for the kindness they have shown and for the love they have given. They are shining examples of what it means to be a mensch. And a mensch is truly what Jerry Davis was. And while his deeds, his acts truly are memorials, we also want to celebrate him with words. And so I invite son David to come forward.
And I know a couple people have commented on ties and how nice my tie is. And Dad was a bit of a fashionista, so all of us are wearing one of Dad's ties. So I'm gonna try not to blubber here. He hated that. But just wanted to thank you all for coming today to celebrate the life of our father and grandfather, Jerry, otherwise known as Poppy. He lived a long, great life and cherished his family and friends. I could stand up here for a very long time and tell story after story, but you all knew him. He was happy, he was grateful every day. He was about being with people all the time. He was an only child, but loved being part of a bigger family. His friends and business associates were all part of that family. Dad loved Robin and me. He made sure that we knew that. He provided us with a great life and exposed us to culture and travel. He made sure we kept in touch with and attended family life events. We talked every day. Based on the phone bill, I think Robin talked to him most of the day. So he really wanted to know what we were up to. I think he fell in love with our mom, Iris, on their first date. He treated her like a queen. They always celebrated life to the fullest. When Dad was traveling or on business, Mom was always there for us. After she passed away, he took on that role and made sure he was always available. At this point in his life, he was so lucky to find Beverly. Although they lived separately, they were constant companions, dinner, golf, and travel, and the best of friends. She was his life partner right up to the day he died. He cherished his grandkids, and he was so proud of you all, not just for what you've accomplished, but for who you are as a person. Every day we spoke, he wanted to know what was new with you, and did you have a good day? He loved Gina and Danielle and knew his grandsons were happy. And then there was Micah, how he loved his great-grandson. Jennifer, how special you were to Dad. He loved you so much. He knew how happy you made me, and that made Dad happy. You made sure our family's together for every event, and that was so important to Dad. One of his favorite places was sitting at the head of our table in front of the fireplace, eating great food and visiting with family all around. The club was part of our family. Ravislow and later Idlewild, how much he enjoyed his days on the course with his favorite foursomes. Dinner at Ravislow's were great, but somewhat frustrating. We would sit down to eat, and the question was always, where's Jerry? And for those of you who know him, started the name Jerry Who. He had to stop at every table, talking to different people, not just working the room, but truly asking people how they were and what was new. He had to introduce his grandkids to everyone and show you off. Working the room is an inherited trait, and he passed it down to all of us. It made him so proud that everyone at the club always told him how great his grandchildren were and wanted to know everything about you. And then there's the breakfast group. There was such an important part of his daily routine. Thank you for being there. He loved all of you. Thank you for keeping him part of the group, even up until the week he died. It kept him vital and engaged. The daily conversations were so important to him. He always invited Andy, Ben, and Sam when they were available and loved having them enjoy the food, the guys, and the whole experience. And Laura, his caregiver of late, although it wasn't long, he enjoyed your company and your help so much. Multiple times a week, he could compliment Robin and me on the great job we did finding such a special person. How lucky were all of us to have him, to have you with him when we could not be there. Poppy was not tall in stature, but was a giant of a man, a titan of business, a patriarch that educated, guided, and loved his family, and a best friend to many. Someone said it best. They said Jerry won at the game of life. He lived a long life and a full life, family that was close and loved him, with happiness his goal every day. Dad, I hope you just finished a part round of golf with your favorite foursome. You're laying in the sun next to the pool, a drink in one hand, a cigar in the other, and that would only be appropriate. Thank you for all being here.
It's customary to look to the 5 books of Moses, our sacred Torah, to help us talk about the life of the loved one we've lost. The stories lift our spirits as we see the qualities of our biblical heroes reflected in our loved ones. We also find surprising connections that can help us feel a sense of comfort that this is Beshert, meant to be. In this week's Torah portion, we read one of the most famous stories, deeply psychological tale of Jacob about to meet his brother, re-meet him for the first time in decades. Not knowing what is in front of him, he goes alone at night, separates from his family, and wrestles with a shadowy figure, a man, all night long. He wrestles to a standstill until the dawn starts to break. The man asks Jacob to let him go. Jacob refuses to let him go without a blessing. So the figure, the man, blesses Jacob with a change of name, calling him Yisrael, which means one who wrestles with divine beings and prevails. We understand through this name and this end to the story that in this case, not to be overcome, just to keep wrestling, to stay in the game, is how the Torah defines success, victory even. Who is that figure? An angel, God, Jacob's own self, his self-doubt, mortality, all of the above. It's easy to see Jerry as Jacob, and not just because of his stocky wrestler's build, fireplug legs, and strong upper body. If one can say life is a constant struggle for companionship, happiness, financial security, family, good food, adventure, golf, for goodness, by every metric, Jerry wrestled with those forces that can keep a man down and won. Even when it came to his beloved Cubs, he won. Eventually, they came out on top, and at least once in his lifetime, took the whole thing home. None of us make it out alive, but as David said, and the family has said it again and again, in the game of life, Jerry won. Truly, Yisrael. Jerome Lee Dreyfuss was born in July of 1926, a child of the Great Depression. An only child, he moved with his parents from Albuquerque, where he was born, to Chicago when he was 2. There, he built the vital foundation for his life in business. Now, I'm not talking about school. The classroom was not where Jerry shined, though he did excel at getting into trouble. His father was in the principal's office more than Jerry was in class, so legend has it. The foundation for his business career was built during his childhood, but outside of school. He experienced the unconditional love, adoration of his parents that is the source of tremendous confidence. His mother, Dorothy, thought the sun rose and set with him. Once, while babysitting Robin and David, she was aghast at their behavior, which was very normal, fighting as siblings do. As Dorothy saw it, she had raised baby Moses, baby Jesus maybe, who could do no wrong, which made his troublemaking classroom behavior even more ironic. Solid friendships created a strong network and gave him the ability to create lasting bonds, key to any successful career in business. During those early school years, he made friends that would last a lifetime. On the streets of his neighborhood, he learned to be a leader. He was the chairman of the board, as one of his oldest and dearest friends, Leon, the senator, named him. Years later, Leon would ask while chomping on an unlit cigar, "Where is the chairman of the board?" And truthfully, he was just a Johnny-come-lately compared to Jerry's oldest friend, Bob, whom he met when he was 4. But Jerry accumulated friends throughout his life, the guys who met for breakfast, or the Breakfast Club, as he wanted Ben's unmade documentary about them to be called. While working, it started off 4 days a week, slightly less frequently as time passed, and finally, recently, weekly. But what mattered was that it still happened. And what started with all his contemporaries eventually invited in sons, became multi-generational, and of course, as soon as he could, he added his grandsons to the mix. Not that they ever invited David. This was an elite club for grandpas, for poppies, and his grandsons. He joined the Navy as soon as he could, earlier, in fact, than he should have at age 17. And in the Navy, while he was a little guy in stature, he was the boss, a gunnery officer. He started off his training in the bustling wartime part of Nebraska, but went to Alaska, Hawaii, eventually on to the Pacific Theater during World War II, where he saw serious action on a destroyer escort in the Philippines. Again, and I can say this as a fellow short guy, an appropriate role, that small, maneuverable ship, clearing the path, clearing out planes and submarines for the much larger destroyers. Dangerous, courageous action. And he returned again, re-enlisting in Korea. In 1953, he met Iris, and a month later, they were engaged. It was so fast, in fact, his parents wondered if it was a shotgun wedding, but Robin was not born for another couple of years, so all of that was above board. He just knew. That businessman's eye, he recognized a good deal when he saw it, whether it was a good price on scrap or a much classier lady going for a schmo like him. He knew he was marrying up. They moved out to Flossmoor, originally looking at Olympia Fields, which was restricted, just as the giant steel companies were, not letting in a nice Jewish boy like him. He was used to being the underdog, though, like his beloved Cubbies. He never let up. He knew it was important to just stay in the game, and that was winning enough. Like Jacob, he just kept wrestling. Thanks to frequent business dinners, in David and Robin's younger years, he was not often there for family dinner at night. He'd arrive late at home, and he'd joke that he was lucky to have their dog Brandy because at least someone was happy to see him when he got home late. But the nights he wasn't out for work, family dinner, 6:30 on the dot. Over dinner, he'd go through the mail, and his anger would rise as he'd open one bill after another. Robin and Iris would be completely out on Monday nights when he paid those bills. They would go shopping to avoid his ire, most often at Southgate Pharmacy, where you could get most of what you wanted, happily shouting, "Charge it to Dreyfuss, see ya," on the way out the door, setting up a new round of charges to raise his blood pressure, like the instructions on a shampoo bottle: lather, rinse, repeat. He was the king of kvetch, elevated it to an art form, reveled in being cantankerous, but it was all bluster. Underneath it all, he was a funny, happy guy. He had charm to burn, that magic about him. He could easily gather a crowd around him telling a story, and he'd just as happily listen to yours. At home, he ruled the roost with an iron fist. If David or Robin would cause trouble, Iris would shout, "Wait till your father gets home." And he'd arrive, "Jerry, do something with them," gravely walking them upstairs. On the way up, the belt would come off. "God damn it," he'd declare in feigned exasperation, the smile already creeping onto its face. If he was lucky, he'd at least contain the laughter until out of earshot of Iris. They'd collapse in laughter in Robin or David's bedroom. He was not a man who could display that kind of anger. Jerry was the boss everywhere else, but certainly not at home. That was Iris's domain, which she managed with aplomb, keeping the whole family humming along. Together, they were a perfect match. Stylish, an understated classiness. He was dapper. Even in sunrise, he'd say, "Is my collar okay?" Only recently stopped wearing ties. They had a good life. Judaism was a major part of it. Going to synagogue, Hebrew school, he was vice president of the synagogue. On the synagogue bowling team, of course, there was the club and golf. While he was out many nights, he was not absent. There were family vacations together, which continued on as the family grew and became the source of many stories, beloved time together. There were Blackhawk games with David. Any kind of sports was an opportunity to spend time together as a family. When Iris died, suddenly, tragically in 1986, he recognized the need and became even more present. Literally. Over time, he became the king of the pop-in. His grandsons would wake up to him leaning on the horn of his Lexus, popping in to take them to breakfast with the guys. Or Jenny would spy him through the window of the laundry room. If she wasn't fast enough, he'd go, "Oh, I didn't see you there." But he would just appear in their room, in their kitchen at times, just happy to spend time together. Beverly, who was his companion for almost as long as Iris, became part of the family. Another woman he felt he lucked out with is with her almost as long as Iris. And getting together seemed beshert. At that stage in life, they had their own worlds, their own homes, their own families, and they melded their lives while maintaining their own, but truly becoming part of their family. He had a retirement party in his 70s, and that was a sham, because he worked for another 20 some odd years until he was 94. Work was everything to him. For many, that means a lopsided, out of balance life. In Jerry's case, everything of value in life could be found in his work. He made authentic connections and built deep relationships. For an only child, work relationships were an opportunity to expand his family. He put faith in people, floating them credit or materials until they could get on their feet. It was shrewd business, true, but it was also built on a foundation of care for others. Their success was his success. For others, cold calling was the worst. the most dreaded part of the job. For him, it was a pleasure. There were no strangers for him, only friends he had not yet met. He would be fully engaged. Sure, he loved the attention and loved to entertain, but it was mutual. He was curious. He showed genuine interest. He understood intuitively that interest in another not only shows them care, but it allows you to learn about them, to help you understand them better, to know them better. Because what he wanted was to know others and to show that you were loved. Most of all, with each of his grandsons, with whom he did this, he knew what they were interested in. His questions weren't generic. They weren't just boilerplate. They were tailored to each of them, remembering what their interests were and asking, following up, and talking. All of this is why his phone was so vital. The mobile phone was probably the greatest invention for Jerry. He was an early adopter. On his long commutes or even longer drives to Detroit or down south for business, he'd be on that old bag phone. What other 94-year-old in more recent days would have 80-something contacts, a walking Rolodex? The phone meant he was always just a ring away for an opportunity or, more importantly, to help someone out. He'd pick it up no matter what. Hold on, this might be important. Business also meant opportunities for meals. This allowed him to scout out the best places to eat so he could bring his family back and share with them the good food, to be a good and gracious host. And work was crucial because, like a true salesman, he saw all of life as sales. When they were old enough, Poppy encouraged his grandsons to start their careers in sales. It was already predetermined, though, because all of their childhoods were a sort of Jerry Dreyfuss School of Business training program. Going to the club for a 6 p.m. table meant arriving at 5:15 to do the rounds, to work the room with him, schmoozing. Then, of course, they'd sit down to order while Jerry spent another 20 minutes arriving to the table. After Iris passed, he'd invite Robin, who said, "No thanks." She knew that it meant eating alone. But he was modeling for them how to show interest, and perhaps more important than anything else, the very fact of the respect he showed for his grandsons was the greatest role modeling of all. He never spoke down to them, no matter how young they were. He never spoke down to anyone, except for maybe occasionally Robin and David as a dad. No. Everyone was always treated as an equal. As David said, we could go on with tales of Jerry Dreyfuss, and over lunch, and whenever we gather, those who knew him will do so. It's clear that, as the saying goes, when they made him, they broke the mold. His charm, his winning smile, his wisecracks, his idiosyncrasies, his honking car horn, his love of Chicago sports, his curiosity, his care, his wise counsel will all be missed. But his love remains, and his memory will forever be a blessing. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember Jerry. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember Jerry. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of the sun, we remember him. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember Jerry. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember Jerry. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember Jerry. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember Jerry. In a moment, I'll read the translation and then chant the funeral prayer, El Malei Rachamim, in which we express our desire that the soul of the one we've lost, that Jerry's soul be bound up in our lives, in the bonds of the living, in the land of the living. This is not just a wish that we offer. In Judaism, our prayers, they are the guides for our actions. They tell us how to live our lives and how to behave. And in saying that we hope his life is bound up in ours, what our prayer here, El Malei Rachamim, is truly telling us is that we need to continue to share our stories and our memories of Jerry. We need to live our lives in ways that align with the values that he taught us. And as we do all of those things, that is truly the Jewish concept of the afterlife. That will keep his life with ours. He will be around in this land of the living with us as long as we remember and we tell his stories and we say his name. Exalted, compassionate God, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure who shine with the splendor of the heavens to the soul of our dear Jerry, who is gone to his eternal home. Master of mercy, remember all his worthy deeds in the land of the living. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May his memory always inspire us to attain dignity and holiness in life. May he rest in peace. As you are able, I invite you to rise for El Malei Rachamim.
El Malei Rachamim, shochen bamromim, hamsei menucha nechona, tachat kanfei hashchina, im kedoshim uteorim, Kizohar harakia mazhirim et nishmat Jerry Dreyfuss shalach leolamo Baal harachamim yastireu Beseter knafav leolamim, Vitzror achayim et nishmato, Adonai hu nachalato, Veyanuach beshalom al mishkavo. Vinomar, and we say, Amen.
The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. It is only the house of the spirit which we now lay to rest. The spirit itself cannot die. Receive in mercy, O God, the soul of our departed Jerry. Grant him that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen, no ear has heard, nor mind has grasped it, still it is our sure inheritance and our everlasting portion. O God, help us to understand that grief and love go hand in hand, that the pain which loss inflicts is the measure of a love stronger than death. In this spirit, O God, do we commit all that is precious to us to your keeping. And we remain standing for the mourner's Kaddish. Well, it is a prayer said by mourners. It is an affirmation of life, moving from the sadness and loss, grief, into a space of life, of seeing holiness around us, even as we hold this loss in our hearts. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabba, Be'alma divra chiyurtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agala u'v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'me'amaya, yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha richu. לעולם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ואמרו, אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and comfort to all mourners, to all Israel, to which we say, amen. You may be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, the services here are concluded. Memorial contributions to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation or the National Multiple Sclerosis Society would be appreciated. That information is on the service folder, which you can get if you have not received one when you exit. For those of you who are online, that information is on the funeral home's website. Everyone here is invited to the Idlewood Country Club at 19201 Dixie Highway in Flossmoor, where the family will be together. At this time, we are concluding the service, and the live stream is ended. You may return to your cars.